Dear Cancer, I need to tell you something. Something no one else has had the courage to say. Something that, deep down, you already know, but have been avoiding for years. This Sunday is no ordinary day. It is the day the shell you present to the world will shatter, and you will find yourself bare before the mirror of your own soul. There will be no audience to applaud. There will be no one to impress, just you, facing your true self beneath the hard exterior you carry on your shoulders like an invisible home. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? That heavy feeling in your chest whenever you're alone, that moment of silence before sleep, when all the daytime personas fade away, leaving only a weary soul, sometimes wondering if anyone would truly see and love them if they knew how they felt inside. This Sunday, the tired person you've been hiding will finally have their moment. They will be seen. They will be heard. And for the first time in their life, they will be loved for exactly who they are, without having to earn that love by taking care of others. For years, you have built a fortress around your heart. Brick by brick, you've erected walls of care, of sacrifice, of warm meals, and nurturing gestures. You became a home for everyone around you, radiating a sense of safety and gentleness that made people feel sheltered in your presence. But at what cost? When was the last time someone asked you how you were feeling? When was the last time you didn't have to be the one comforting someone else? When was the last time you could just be human, vulnerable, sensitive, and real? This Sunday, all of that will change. Not because you choose it, but because your soul can no longer bear it. Because your big, generous Cancer heart is exhausted from always giving, always protecting, always being the source of comfort for everyone, without ever receiving that same nourishment in return. This Sunday marks the day you stop being a harbor for others and finally become your own home. The truth you've been avoiding is this: you were not born to constantly carry the emotional weight of others. You were not born to bear everyone's fears on your shoulders. You are not responsible for keeping everyone happy, peaceful, and safe. The responsibility you took upon yourself to be the shelter that never crumbles was never yours to begin with. And this Sunday, the universe will show you this so clearly, so profoundly, that you can no longer pretend not to understand. But here is what will frighten you. When you stop being the person others run to, some people will leave. When you show your true sensitivity, some people will feel uncomfortable. When you need to be held, instead of always being the one holding, some people will disappear. And this will hurt more than anything, because it will confirm your greatest fear, that you are only loved for what you give, not for who you are. This Sunday will be cruel in that way. It will rip apart the veil of illusion you've created around your relationships. It will reveal who truly loves you for your essence and who is simply taking advantage of your energy. It will show which connections are genuine and which were merely convenient. And in the midst of this raw truth, you will discover something that will change everything. The ones who stay, the ones who continue to love you when you show up in your full humanity. These people will love you in a way you have never experienced before. For those Cancers born between the 22nd of June and the 1st of July, this Sunday will particularly expose the mask you wear in your intimate relationships. You will discover that you fear being abandoned if you don't constantly care for others. For those born between the 2nd of July and the 12th of July, the revelation will be about how you sacrifice yourself within your family, always putting others' needs first to prove your worth. And for those born between the 13th of July and the 22nd of July, the awakening will be about how you've buried your own wounds to be a rock for those around you. And now you need to heal the inner child that has been long forgotten. But all Cancers, regardless of their birth date, will experience the same fundamental thing this Sunday: the collapse of an identity built on being needed by others, the death of the version of you that existed only to shelter others, and the painful but liberating birth of the version that shines because it's your nature, not because it's what's expected of you. Cancer, you need to understand something about yourself that no one ever taught you. Your tenderness is not an obligation, it's a gift. You don't nurture to serve others. You nurture because it is the essence of who you are. And when you understand this subtle but profound difference, everything in your life will change. You stop feeling obligated to always be the strong one. You stop blaming yourself when you are sad or in need of care. You stop pretending that you're okay when you're not. This Sunday is the day you give yourself permission to be fully human, to have bad days, to need care, to be small sometimes, to not have all the answers, to not be the strongest one in the room. And when you give yourself that permission, something magical will happen. You will discover that the people who truly matter will love you even more for it. The transformation that is coming is not gentle. It is not gradual. It is like an inner earthquake that will shake every structure you have built on the need to be needed, on sacrifice, and on validation. The image of the Cancer who never shows weakness, who always has to care, who always has to be the one who fixes things, will crumble. And in its place will be a much more real, much more powerful, much more magnetic human being. This Sunday, you will experience moments of panic when you realize you no longer know how to behave unless it is to care for or protect someone. You will feel lost when you discover you don't know who you are when you're not someone's protector. You will feel naked and exposed when your true sensitivity is seen by others for the first time. But then, in the midst of this inner chaos, something you never expected will happen. You will fall in love with yourself for the first time. You will fall in love with who you are when you don't have to be a rock for anyone. You will be fascinated by your own fears, your insecurities, your imperfections. You will discover that who you are is much more interesting than any shell you've created. You will realize that people connect far more deeply with your authenticity than with your sacrifice. What moves me most about the transformation that will happen to you this Sunday is that you will finally understand the difference between being loved for being useful and being loved for being you. For years, you have confused the two. You thought you had to always be available, always be caring, always be the one solving everyone's problems to be worthy of love. But true love doesn't have to be earned. It exists simply because you exist. This Sunday will bring people into your life who will love you on your worst days, who will stay by your side when you are broken, who will hold you when you are weak, who will choose you not for what you give, but for who you are. And these people will show you a kind of love you didn't even know existed, because until now, you've only known conditional love. The pain you will feel this Sunday is not a punishment. It's a rebirth. It's the necessary process to give birth to the most authentic version of yourself. And yes, it will be as painful as any birth. It will be intense. It will be scary. It will feel like you can't get through it. But on the other side of this pain is a version of you that lives without a shell, without fear of rejection, without the constant need to prove your worth. In the next few hours before this Sunday, you may try to resist what is coming. You may try to keep up appearances, to continue caring, to pretend nothing has changed, but your soul will not let you. It is too tired, too hurt, too hungry for authenticity to keep pretending. And once it decides to reveal itself, and it will do so this Sunday, there will be no going back. Cancer, there is a child inside you who who just wants to be seen and loved for who they are, not for what they can do for others. A child who wants to be held without worrying if they are bothering anyone. A child who wants to cry when they are sad without feeling guilty for worrying others. This child has been silenced for years, pushed inside, hidden behind responsibilities and expectations that were never really yours. This Sunday, that child returns, not as a childish regression, but as a sacred integration. You will recover the ability to feel authentically, to laugh without calculating the effect of your laughter on others, to cry without apologizing, to be sensitive without worrying if it's appropriate, to love without fear of abandonment, to protect because it is natural, not because it is expected. The loneliness you felt in the last few months was not random. It was your soul preparing you for this moment. It was creating distance for you from distractions, from people who didn't really see you, from situations that required you to be someone you're not. This solitude was a chrysalis, a sacred space where your transformation could take place, away from judging eyes, limiting expectations, and draining demands. And now, this Sunday, you emerge from that chrysalis, no longer as a people pleaser, but as someone who pleases themselves first and can therefore contribute authentically to the world. No longer as the Cancer who needs to be perfect to be loved, but as a whole human being worthy of love, just as they are. What will happen this Sunday is not an isolated event. It is the culmination of years of unconscious preparation. All the times you felt misunderstood, all the times you gave more than you received, all the times you smiled on the outside while crying on the inside, all the times you felt alone in a crowd. All of this has prepared you for this moment of inner revolution. This Sunday, pay attention to the moments you instinctively try to hide an emotion, and then catch yourself doing it. Notice when you want to hide a real feeling so as not to upset someone, but then choose to express it anyway. Notice when you feel the urge to be a rock for someone and decide to share your own vulnerability instead. These small acts of authenticity are the building blocks of the new life you are creating. Those around you will notice the change immediately. Your energy will be different, calmer, more centered, more real. Some will be confused at first because they were used to the sacrificial version of you. Others will feel uncomfortable because your authenticity will mirror their own pretense. But those who truly love you will feel relieved because they can finally connect with the real you. Cancer, what moves me most about your transformation is that you will discover that you have always had within you everything you were looking for in others. The validation you sought in external approval has always existed in your own heart. The recognition you desired from the world can be given by yourself. The love you longed for has always been available in your own capacity to love yourself completely. This Sunday marks the end of emotional dependency on others to feel worthy. It marks the beginning of an era where you are the home of your own life, radiating security because it is who you are, not because it is what others expect from you. And when you become your own home, something magical happens. The right people are naturally drawn into your orbit, not to drain your energy, but to share their light with you. The courage you need this Sunday is not the courage to face an external enemy. It is the courage to face the parts of yourself you have hidden. It is the courage to admit you are scared. It is the courage to admit that you sometimes feel small. It is the courage to confess that you don't always know what you're doing. It is the courage to be vulnerable with people who may or may not be able to accept the real you. But here is what you will discover when you practice that courage. Vulnerability does not make you weak. It makes you human. It makes you relatable. It makes you real. And people connect with truth far more deeply than with perfection. When you reveal your wounds, you will discover that others have similar ones. When you confess your fears, you will find others who share them. When you admit your limits, you will connect with the universal humanity we all share. This Sunday will also bring clarity about which relationships drain your energy versus which ones nourish it. You will realize that some relationships only existed because you were always giving, always available, always solving problems. And when you stop doing this, these relationships will naturally dissolve. This may be painful at first, but it is a necessary cleansing to make room for more balanced and mutually nurturing connections. The authentic Cancer that is born this Sunday is no less generous or loving than the previous version. In fact, they are even more so because they give from a place of fullness, not lack. They give because they want to, not because they need to. They love because it is natural, not because they are trying to ensure they will be loved in return. And this subtle but profound difference completely transforms the quality of their relationships. In the coming weeks after this Sunday, you may feel moments of nostalgia for your old self. You may miss the simplicity of knowing exactly what role to play in every situation. You might even wonder if you made the right choice in embracing your authenticity. These moments are normal and fleeting. They are just the last gasps of the old identity, dying to make way for the new. Cancer, what is happening to you this Sunday is sacred. It is a rebirth into life. It is the chance to become who you have always been, underneath the layers of conditioning, expectations, and fears. It is the chance to live as you are, tender but not in service, caring but not codependent, loving but not needy, strong but also vulnerable, human but also divine. The authentic version of you that will emerge this Sunday has a presence that needs no audience to exist. It has a confidence that does not depend on anyone's approval. It has a warmth that radiates because it is your nature, not because you are trying to warm the darkness of everyone around you. And this version of you will create a life so aligned with your essence that you will wonder how you lived for so long as someone else. The transformation of this Sunday is not something you need to force or rush. It will happen as naturally as a flower blooms when it is ready. Your only responsibility is not to fight it when it begins. Do not try to control the process. Do not try to tone down its intensity so as not to upset anyone. Let your soul do what it came here to do. Reveal itself completely, without masks, without excuses, without fear. This Sunday, you will discover that you have always been enough, just as you are. That you never needed to be stronger, more perfect, more available to be worthy of love. That your whole being, with all its light and shadow, is not only acceptable, but desirable. That the people who truly matter want to know all parts of you, not just the beautiful and convenient ones. And when you finally allow yourself to be seen and loved completely, you will experience a kind of freedom that will transform everything in your life. You will stop sacrificing for an imaginary audience. You will start making decisions based on what is right for you, not what will impress others. You will choose relationships that nourish you, work that fulfills you, and environments that honor your true nature. Cancer, this Sunday comes only once in a lifetime because it is the day you stop living as if you have to earn your own existence. It is the day you fully embrace your right to be yourself without justification or compromise. It is the day your soul is finally allowed to breathe, to express itself, to shine in the way it has always wanted. Get ready, because this Sunday will change everything. And when you look back, you will realize that all the pain you've felt, all the confusion you've experienced, all the loneliness you've endured were just contractions in a long labor that now culminates in the birth of your true self. Are you ready to know and love this person for the rest of your life? If you have read this far, it is because your soul has recognized the truth in these words. Share in the comments which part of this message touched your heart the most. Your words might be exactly what another Cancer needs to hear to prepare for their own transformation.